This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Walz and Vance get ready for their vice presidential debate.
Their Project 2025.
This is a radical human being.
I'm Steve Futterman.
Floodwaters and the death toll rising in parts of the southeast.
The roads are gone, the roads are closed.
I'm Clayton Neville.
A judge in Georgia strikes down its 6-week abortion ban. I'm Kamala.
U.S. ports from Maine to Texas could shut down. I'm Norman Hall.
If you live in the path of Hurricane Helene, it may wind up to be one of the worst economically damaging storms of all time. I'm Peter Schacknow.
Lawyers for New York City Mayor Eric Adams urging a federal judge to dismiss the bribery charge against him. Julie Walker, New York.
A New Mexico judge has upheld the involuntary manslaughter conviction of the weapons supervisor on the Alec Baldwin movie Rust. I'm Archie Zaraletta with the latest.
All ahead on America in the Morning. State and federal leaders are promising help to communities impacted by the destruction of Hurricane Helene. More than 100 people have been killed. Clayton Neville reports Helene is predicted to become one of the costliest storms ever to hit the U.S.
A third of the death toll was killed in North Carolina as raging floodwaters destroyed communities there and uprooted neighborhoods, some submerged in several feet of water. At least 40 people dead in Buncombe County, where Asheville is. More than 2 million customers still without power in several states today, while millions of others have had power restored. On the ground in Georgia, former President and Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump was attending a briefing on Helene when he commented on the federal response to the storm, or what he described as a lack thereof.
The governor's doing a very good job. He's having a hard time getting the president on the phone. I guess they're not being responsive. The federal government is not being responsive.
President Biden snapped back.
I don't know why he does this. And the reason I get so angry about it, I don't care about what he says about me, but I care what he communicates to the people that are in need.
The president will visit North Carolina tomorrow.
We're going to be landing in Raleigh for a briefing with the Emergency Operations Center. And I'll then do an aerial tour of Asheville.
He spoke about some serious plans to make up for infrastructure destroyed or washed away in the storm.
We're talking about land bridges to be able to get the Defense Department in there to get water, for example, from a place that, in fact, they can't get to because the roads are gone, the roads are closed.
Vice President Kamala Harris pledging federal help.
We will continue to do everything we can to help you recover and to help you rebuild, no matter how long it takes.
And former President Trump said the deadly storm and its recovery takes priority over campaigning.
None of that matters. We're not talking about politics now. We have to all get together and get this solved. We need a lot of help. They have to have a lot of help down here. We want to get Starlink hooked up because they have no communication whatsoever. And Elon will always come through. Hey, we know that.
The system is mostly tapered off, but it could bring more rain in coming days for parts of the drenched Appalachians, where river and creek flooding is still causing problems, not just there, but across the Carolinas, in Tennessee, in Georgia, and parts of Florida. I'm Clayton Neville.
Ohio Senator J.D. Vance and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will face off tonight with a debate preview. Here's Correspondent Steve Futterman.
We have already had 2 debates, each with memorable and consequential moments. In June, Joe Biden had a disastrous performance against Donald Trump, at times losing focus and unable to give clear answers.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
The negative fallout was so great, it led to Biden's withdrawal from the race. Then last month in Philadelphia, Kamala Harris went against Trump. At one point, Trump spoke about immigrants eating pets in Springfield, Ohio.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
Tonight, it's the turn of the VP candidates, Tim Walz and J.D. Vance. They have been active on the campaign. Walz attacking Trump.
Their Project 2025 will make things much, much harder for people who are just trying to live their lives.
Vance attacking Harris.
This is a radical human being who comes from the far left wing of the Democrat Party. And what Kamala Harris is telling all of us by selecting Tim Walz is that she bends the knee to the far left of the Democrat Party, and she will do it if the American people give her a promotion to President of the United States.
Tonight, they are each likely to attempt to put the other on the defensive. Vance will almost certainly bring up Walz's military service and unproven suggestions that Walz left the military to avoid being deployed overseas.
I'm going to say it again as clearly as I can. I am damn proud of my service to this country.
Traditionally, the vice presidential debates, even with memorable moments, do not have that much impact on the general election. But with this election seeming to be so close, this could be one instance where it might. I'm Steve Futterman reporting.
Dockworkers strike when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. More showers expected in the east. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton has a check of the nation's weather.
The eastern third of the nation continues to be a hotbed of activity in terms of precipitation, with the remaining energy from what was once Hurricane Helene finally making a push toward the east coast today. Thanks to winds remaining largely off the ocean, this feature will continue to tap into some rather robust moisture, leading to an area with the potential for heavy rain from the Delmarva Peninsula into eastern Virginia and far northeastern North Carolina. Steady rain extends from central Virginia into central Pennsylvania today, with areas of drizzle also expected through much of New Jersey as well. Outside of that steadier rain, a large swath of territory from northern Louisiana to western Pennsylvania and West Virginia also faces the risk for showers due to this very same storm today, with mainly dry conditions for areas from South Carolina to the Florida Panhandle that will continue to have river flooding issues into midweek. In this area, road closures may persist due to lingering washouts in the wake of Helene, and landslides are still possible in spots. South and east of there, much of the Florida Peninsula stands the risk for a drenching afternoon thunderstorm. For the central and eastern Great Lakes, a cold front traversing the area will mean showers from lower Michigan into Indiana and much of Ohio, and there can be some thunder this afternoon around the Detroit metro area. Otherwise, dry conditions can be expected for most places west of the Mississippi River as a heat wave continues in the southwest. The best chance for precipitation outside of the east is in northwestern Washington, where a new storm brings periods of rain, especially toward the coast. In Sacramento, expect blazing sunshine with a high near the record of 102 from the year 2001. For Indianapolis, watch for morning fog with plenty of clouds otherwise and a shower around with a high of 78. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Dock workers at ports from Maine to Texas have started walking picket lines in a strike over wages and automation. A prolonged strike will affect shipping centers from Maine to Texas, shutting down East and Gulf ports that handle half of the nation's ship cargo. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
The International Longshoremen's Association is demanding significantly higher wages. The union also wants a total ban on the automation of cranes, gates, and container-moving trucks that are used in the loading and unloading of freight at 36 U.S. ports. Those ports handle roughly half of the nation's cargo from ships. The contract with the Maritime Alliance, which represents the ports, expires on Tuesday. The two sides haven't held negotiations since June. I'm Norman Hall.
In Georgia, a Fulton County Superior Court judge has struck down the state's 6-week abortion ban, now making it legal to terminate a pregnancy up to 22 weeks. Pamela Furr has more on the story.
It's known as the Life Act and was signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp in 2019, but didn't take effect until July 2022 when the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade. Judge Robert McBurney wrote in his ruling that a review of, quote, our higher court's interpretations of liberty demonstrates that liberty in Georgia includes in its meaning, in its protections, and in its bundle of rights, the power of a woman to control her own body, to decide what happens to it and in it, and to reject state interference. He did go on to say that the power is not unlimited, that when a fetus reaches viability, only then may society intervene. Governor Kemp's office responded by saying once again the will of Georgians and their representatives have been overruled by the personal beliefs of one judge. A spokesperson for Georgia's Attorney General says they will appeal the ruling immediately. I'm Pamela Furr.
TV networks merge with a twist when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. In with today's business headlines, CNBC's Peter Schacknow.
Weather events like Hurricane Helene take a huge economic toll on those in its path, from home damage to public infrastructure damage to destroyed highways. And this particular storm has hit particularly hard. CNBC's Contessa Brewer has been following the impact of the storm, and she says it's currently on track to be among the top 5 worst of all time in terms of the economic damage it causes.
AccuWeather's out with a jaw-dropping early estimate between $95 billion and $110 billion. The impact on infrastructure severe. Hundreds of roads, including interstate highways, washed away or buried in landslides, dams overtopping on the brink of failure. Millions of people lost electricity, and Georgia Power calls it the worst hurricane in the company's history.
Contessa says it is possible that in a worst-case scenario, the storm could be the 3rd worst of all time in terms of economic damage. Elsewhere in economic news, the labor market is in focus this week as Wall Street opens a new trading month following the first positive September in 5 years. The September jobs report is out Friday, and today the Labor Department issues its JOLTS report, its monthly measure of the number of open jobs. Now that the Fed has finally delivered its long-awaited rate cut and is on track for several more, Wall Street is in a wait-and-see mode, according to Liz Young-Thomas, head of investment strategy at SoFi.
I think the biggest gains leading up to the easing cycle have probably been had, but that doesn't mean it slows down necessarily in the immediate term. So usually after that first cut, when you look out 30 to 60 days, the market is flat-ish to up. And then about 3 months out is when the market decides whether or not these cuts were needed because things were cooling too quickly, or if they were cuts because we could do it, not because we had to do it, in which case the market ends up being much more positive.
One money matter that could hit close to home will hit the headlines today. 2025 star ratings for health insurers will be made public by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Those ratings impact reimbursement rates for companies and indirectly how much consumers pay in premiums and copays.
DirecTV and Dish Network have merged with a twist.
Well, that unusual aspect was the price of the transaction. Parent company EchoStar sold both Dish and streaming service Sling TV to DirecTV for $1. That is pretty unusual, but of course there's a lot more to it than that. DirecTV will also take responsibility for the debt that Dish owes, and that amounts to $9.75 billion. This is a deal that had been predicted by many for years, with competition rising and the need to have enough scale to bargain effectively with program providers.
Thank you, CNBC's Peter Schacknow. Big Apple mayoral crisis. Top aide resigns. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Another top aide to New York City Mayor Eric Adams has resigned as Adams' attorneys are demanding a dismissal of a bribery charge against him. Correspondent Julie Walker has the latest.
Lawyers for New York City Mayor Eric Adams urging a federal judge to dismiss the bribery charge against him, filing a motion Monday accusing what they call zealous prosecutors of leveling an extraordinary, vague allegation that does not rise to the level of a federal crime. Adams continuing to say he's not resigning.
You said there are people who are calling for me too, but are you going to acknowledge there are people that are saying, Eric, hang in there? So we have to, this is New York. You know, you guys have heard me say this throughout my time in office, 8.3 million people, 35 million opinions.
Mayor Adams is accused of accepting travel benefits and illegal campaign contributions from a Turkish official who then sought his help pushing through the opening of a consulate building. Adams' lawyers say the expediting process does not meet the standard for federal bribery charges. Julie Walker, New York.
A New Mexico judge has upheld the conviction for the weapons supervisor on the set of the movie Rust. More on that story from correspondent Margie Zaraletta.
Judge Mary Marlowe Summer has denied a request from armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed for a new trial or dismissal of her conviction in the shooting death of cinematographer Helene Hutchins in 2021. Prosecutors had blamed Gutierrez-Reed for bringing live ammunition on the set and failing to follow gun protocols. Her lawyers had argued that Marlowe Summer had ended Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter trial in July because police and prosecutors failed to disclose evidence, and the same evidence could have helped Gutierrez-Reed. Hutchins was killed when Baldwin pointed a gun at her during a rehearsal and it went off. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Our senior producer, Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour. Cleanup continues in the aftermath of Helene, and
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris putting Hurricane Helene recovery front and center. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
More American troops head to the Middle East as the conflict there potentially expands. I'm Clayton Neville.
Baseball hit king Pete Rose has died at 83. I'm Sagar Meghani.
Military officials have released new video of a startling encounter between a Russian fighter jet flying near Alaska. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Nationwide Verizon cellular outage seems to have been repaired. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Sean Combs is getting the word out about his time behind bars. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. A blast of fall-like weather for some. With the nation's forecast, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
As a cold front continues to push across the northern and central plains into the Midwest and Great Lakes regions today, cooler air will slide eastward into places such as Missouri, Wisconsin, and the eastern Dakotas. To the west, mild conditions can be expected from interior parts of the Northwest through much of the high plains, including areas from eastern Colorado through Montana and points westward into Idaho. By contrast, a heat wave will roll on from California into parts of the desert Southwest, with daily record highs again being challenged into southern Nevada and Arizona today. After setting a record stretch of days with highs over 100 degrees earlier this year, Phoenix is now in the middle of what could be quite a long stretch of tying or breaking daily record highs. Today's forecast of 113 degrees would mark both the 8th consecutive record high and the highest temperature ever recorded there during the month of October. For the rest of the West, another dry day is in store, except perhaps over northwestern Washington, where a weakening cold front can bring some rain through the day. More active conditions continue once again today for the interior southeast, parts of the south, and points northward. For the Florida Peninsula, another day with a risk for afternoon thunderstorms can be expected, bringing lightning and some downpours from time to time. Elsewhere from northeastern Louisiana to central Alabama and parts of Tennessee, a piece of energy rotating around the moisture from the former Hurricane Helene will enhance the chance for showers there, with the rest of that disturbance producing showers as far north as Pennsylvania and some steadier rain near the coast from North Carolina into New Jersey. A separate storm will bring showers today from Michigan into the Ohio Valley. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The North Carolina Department of Transportation says that all roads in the western part of the state should be considered closed. In Mitchell County, North Carolina, officials are telling residents if they need help, don't call 911. Walk to the nearest fire department. In many parts of the state, no cell phone or internet service has left people cut off from making contact. Correspondent Julie Walker reports help is being brought in using helicopters, mules, and bicycles to reach the hardest hit areas from Helene as the death toll continues to climb.
We were not preparing for an event like this. We've had in the past hurricane warnings, and when they come, it's just, a rainstorm, and it hasn't been as devastating as this.
I couldn't even think what was going on. It happened so fast to me and scared the life out of me because nothing like that ever happened.
We are struggling to get power restored to the town of Highlands. We experienced 21 inches of rain and super high winds that not only knocked our power pole lines down, it splintered and destroyed a number of our utility poles.
Governor Roy Cooper pledging to get more water, food, and other supplies to flood-stricken areas.
People are desperate for help, and we are pushing to get it to them.
Asheville had no power and little to no cell service. Resident Mario Moraga.
Our whole neighborhood is really coming together and talking to each other and walking around house to house, checking on everybody.
He says homes and businesses were destroyed.
This is going to be a major cleanup. This is taking out all of Biltmore Village, high-end stores, restaurants. People are going to be, we're going to be cleaning up a long time.
President Biden pledging federal support for affected areas.
Communities are devastated. Loved ones waiting, not sure if their loved ones are okay, because they can't contact them because there's no cell phone connections. Many more folks displaced with no idea when they'll be able to be returned to their home, if ever, if there's a home to return to.
With roads out, cell phone service spotty, and electricity and gas scarce, official Drew Resinger says they're using a bike brigade.
Biking out to houses to knock on doors of people who need help.
They're also using ham radios and mountain mule packers to deliver supplies. Owner Mike Toberer says about a dozen mules will be weighed down with food, water, and baby supplies.
150 to 200, depending on the mule and the train.
Officials say the storm's death toll across the Southeast is in the triple digits. I'm Julie Walker.
Former President Trump and Vice President Harris have put their usual talking points aside to focus on the relief efforts for those affected by Hurricane Helene. Correspondent John Stolnis has more on reaction from the candidates.
Former President Trump standing with local officials in front of a furniture store in Valdosta, Georgia, that was destroyed by Hurricane Helene over the weekend. Trump said he wanted to put aside politics in this visit to Georgia.
As you know, our country is in the final weeks of a hard-fought national election. But in a time like this, when a crisis hits, when our fellow citizens cry out in need, none of that matters. We're not talking about politics now. We have to all get together and get this solved.
Trump was joined by local politicians as well as Franklin Graham, president of the Christian aid group Samaritan's Purse. Vice President Kamala Harris ended her West Coast fundraising trip early to return to Washington and FEMA headquarters for an in-person update on federal aid efforts. Trump has criticized the Biden administration and Harris for not visiting the area yet, but Harris insists she will go at the appropriate time.
And I've shared with them that I plan to be on the ground as soon as possible, but as soon as possible without disrupting any emergency response operations, because that must be the highest priority in the first order of business.
President Biden will travel to Asheville, North Carolina tomorrow to survey the damage. As for the campaign trail, Senator J.D. Vance and Governor Tim Walz will take the stage for their lone debate tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for 90 minutes on CBS. And it comes as the daughter of Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani announced yesterday she is voting for Harris. Caroline Giuliani explaining that she is, quote, grieving the loss of her dad to former President Trump. John Stolnis, Washington.
A limited Israeli ground incursion into Lebanon targeting Hezbollah soldiers and tunnels is underway as the U.S. is sending more troops to the region to bolster the current force. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
A few thousand more troops and additional fighter jets are being sent by the U.S. to the Middle East. Israel's now launching small-scale ground raids in Lebanon as Israel continues to fight with the militant group Hezbollah nearly a year after Israel was attacked by Hamas last October 7th. A larger ground invasion into Lebanon now looms as the IDF targets infrastructure where Hezbollah leaders are believed to be hiding under in tunnels, similar to Hamas tunnels in Gaza. In an address this week, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke directly to the people of Iran.
When Iran is finally free, and that moment will come a lot sooner than people think, everything will be different. Our two ancient peoples, the Jewish people and the Persian people, will finally be at peace.
He said most Iranians know the regime doesn't care about them.
If it cared about you, it would stop wasting billions of dollars on futile wars across the Middle East.
President Biden was asked by reporters yesterday if he's in the loop on what Israel plans to do.
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now.
Israeli officials say that a Hamas commander who worked alongside Hezbollah and led the group in Lebanon has been taken out. It happened in an airstrike.
During his leadership of Hezbollah, the group terrorized people across the region and prevented Lebanon from fully moving forward as a country. The region, the world, are safer without him.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken.
Hassan Nasrallah was a brutal terrorist whose many victims included Americans, Israelis, civilians in Lebanon, civilians in Syria.
This is 3 Palestinian militant leaders were reportedly killed in a separate recent strike. I'm Clayton Neville.
When we return on America in the Morning, a scene right out of Top Gun. Russian and U.S. planes come dangerously close. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. I'm John Trout. He was baseball's all-time hit king, one of the greats who was banned from the Hall of Fame due to betting on the game. Sagar Meghani reports on the passing of Pete Rose.
Pete Rose? Yes, sir. Alias Charlie Hustle?
Rose was old school, the guy who crouched at the plate, scowling, running full speed even after drawing a walk, diving headfirst into the next bag. In 1985, he broke idol Ty Cobb's all-time hits record, earning a call from President Reagan.
One of the most enduring records in sports history.
But 4 years later, Rose was banned from baseball for gambling on the game. He first denied it, but later,
"You know I'm sorry,"
saying gambling and banishment cost him dearly.
"It cost me my dignity, it cost me my respect, it cost me a lot of money, it cost me a managerial job with the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, it cost me everything."
In 2016, Rose was inducted into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame.
Did I ever think I'd make it? Nope. But I did.
But he had a different shrine in mind, the Baseball Hall of Fame, a year earlier.
All I look forward to being someday is friends of baseball. I want baseball and Pete Rose to be friends. That's all I want so I can say I'm not an outsider looking in.
Rose never did make it to Cooperstown while alive. I'm Sagar Meghani.
When you're a pilot and you can see what the pilot of another plane is wearing in the sky, it means you're dangerously too close. As correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports, the U.S. is demanding answers from Russia after one of their fighter jets came within just feet of an American F-16 bomber after it strayed inside the Alaska Air Defense Zone.
Military officials have released new video of a startling encounter between a Russian fighter jet flying near Alaska and a U.S. Air Force F-16 sent to intercept it. The video of the close encounter, September 23rd, shows the Russian plane swooping just feet from the U.S. plane. The close pass of the Russian jet comes just weeks after 8 Russian military planes and 4 of its Navy vessels, including 2 submarines, came close to Alaska as China and Russia conducted joint drills. In July, Russian and Chinese bombers flew together for the first time in international airspace off Alaska in a sign of cooperation that U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said raised concerns. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A casino in Tampa, Florida was evacuated twice after 2 explosive devices were found hidden on the grounds. Police report one device at the Seminole Hard Rock Casino was found Sunday inside a men's bathroom, another located yesterday in a different restroom. Both were neutralized by the Hillsborough County Bomb Disposal Team. The FBI has joined in on that investigation. Shifting gears, DirecTV will buy rival Dish to create a massive pay TV company. Correspondent Jennifer King reports the unusual amount DirecTV paid and the hurdles it may face getting government approval.
In a deal years in the making, DirecTV is buying Dish along with Sling TV from EchoStar. The satellite company has been looking for ways to compete, and the deal reflects how dominant streaming services have become for video delivery. 2 decades ago, the FCC blocked a prospective merger, citing antitrust concerns over what would have been an $18.6 billion deal. Now, DirecTV is acquiring the rivals for a payment of $1 plus the assumption of debt. DirecTV says that combined, they and Dish have lost 63% of their satellite customers since 2016. Their goal now is to lure back consumers who want smaller, tailored packages of content at a lower price point. Meanwhile, EchoStar's CEO says the struggling Colorado-based telecommunications firm will focus on expanding a nationwide 5G wireless network. I'm Jennifer King.
Your cellular service might be returning to normal today if you're a Verizon customer after a major outage left many customers without any bars. Here's Chuck Palm with today's tech news.
The FCC said on Monday they were investigating a Verizon network outage across the entire United States after thousands of users reported their cell phones not working. Some of the largest cities like Minneapolis, Phoenix, Omaha, and Denver, with Chicago and Seattle reportedly having the largest outages. According to Down Detector, the outage began around 9:30 a.m. Eastern with nearly 30,000 reports of outages by 5 p.m. Verizon released a statement saying their engineers were making progress on the network issues and service has started to be restored. They also apologized for the inconvenience without providing any details on the reason for the outage. Most iPhone users reported being stuck in SOS mode, which appears when there is no service available, but still allows you to reach emergency services through other providers. This year's AT&T outage in February affected more than 70,000 customers for 12 hours. Follow me on X for updated tech news at Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning's Robert Workman has Tuesday sports.
Baseball's last 2 playoff slots were nailed down in a doubleheader in Atlanta yesterday. The Mets rallied twice to beat the Braves 8-7 in the opener, scoring 6 times in the top of the 8th to take the lead, only to see Atlanta go back in front of the home half before Francisco Lindor went deep in the 9th to win it.
I felt in slow motion. I felt like I got the pitch that I wanted. You never know if the ball is going to go out or not, but I feel like I got it 100%.
The Braves had to scratch their ace Chris Sale from the starting game too, but 6 relief pitchers combined on a 3-hitter for a 3-0 win. The split put Atlanta and New York both into the playoffs and eliminated the defending National League champion Arizona Diamondbacks. So with that, the wild card best-of-3 matchups are all set. Things start today in Houston, where the Astros host the Tigers. The Royals and the Orioles are up next in Baltimore. The Mets head back to Milwaukee to face the Brewers, and the Padres welcome the Braves to San Diego this evening. NFL, a Monday night doubleheader. The Lions handed the Seahawks their first loss, 42-29. Jared Goff set an NFL record, going a perfect 18 for 18 passing with 2 touchdowns. But you know the thing he's going to be bragging about today is his first career TD reception, a 7-yard pass from Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 3rd quarter.
That play's been in for a long time. I think we actually have called it in a game before, and then if it's not the right look, I get out of it. But that was the right look.
The two connected the other way in the 4th quarter, becoming the 8th duo in NFL history to do that. Meantime, in Miami, the Titans got their first win of the season, dropping the Dolphins 31-12, getting 5 field goals from Nick Folk, while Miami's offense struggled under Tyler Huntley, their 3rd quarterback of the month. Week 5 opens Thursday night in Atlanta with the Falcons and the Buccaneers. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. Among the stories we're covering next, music mogul in prison, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Basketball Hall of Famer Dikembe Mutombo has died at the age of 58 from brain cancer. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports Mutombo was a giant both on and off the court.
I don't have to score 20 points to make everyone happy.
He could score, but in his playing days, Dikembe Mutombo made a name for himself with his defensive prowess.
Not in my house.
A shot-blocking ability enhanced by his 7'2" height and celebrated in a Geico insurance ad.
Happier than Dikembe Mutombo blocking a shot.
Coming out of Georgetown, Mutombo spent 18 seasons in the NBA, playing for Denver, Atlanta, Houston, Philadelphia, New York, and the then New Jersey Nets. An 8-time All-Star, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, and 3-time All-NBA selection. Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2015.
I'm fortunate and blessed.
But off the court, Mutombo made a mark with his humanitarian work. His foundation focuses on health, education, and quality of life in his home country, the Congo. I'm Ben Thomas.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is speaking through his lawyer about what it's like to be incarcerated. Kevin Carr has that story.
The lawyer for Sean Combs is speaking out about how the disgraced music mogul has been handling his incarceration. Mark Agnifilo spoke to TMZ for the documentary The Downfall of Diddy, The Indictment, now available on Tubi.
His state of mind is actually remarkably positive. His resolve is strong, he's engaged, and he is come to terms with the fact that this is where he is for now.
Combs was indicted on September 17th on 3 counts of racketeering and sex trafficking. He is being held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, which has a notorious reputation. Combs has already said that he would not accept a plea deal in the case in spite of the dangers of being behind bars. One of Combs' longtime rivals, Suge Knight, who himself is incarcerated in California for a fatal hit-and-run in 2015, spoke to Chris Cuomo on News Nation about the dangers Combs faces in prison life.
I don't care who you are. Prison and jail is a negative environment. Somebody can do something to them and get a name for themselves.
Agnifilo says Combs is keeping his spirits high and looking forward to fighting the charges.
We are trying to get this matter to trial as soon as possible. You know, he is so focused on trying to right this wrong that it's actually giving him a form of strength.
Combs may be incarcerated for a year or more while the case goes to trial. On September 18th, a federal judge denied an appeal for the no-bail ruling, agreeing that the defendant poses a risk of flight and witness tampering. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.